Never heard her raise her voice before. I hung up and immediately checked my email again. Still nothing from Josephine. Nothing from HR. It was like they'd thrown a grenade and then gone silent. I called Rex next to understand what kind of access I still had. Then Daniela in legal to find out where I stood contractually. Then I started returning client calls. Every conversation followed the same pattern. Shock and outrage on their behalf. Concern about what this meant for their accounts. And then invariably the question, what are you going to do next? By dinner time, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Elena, this is Regina Blackwood. We need to talk urgently. Can you call me on this personal number? I showed Nathan the text. He'd been sitting beside me for hours, bringing me water, taking notes, being my rock. Are you going to call her? He asked. I stared at the message for a long time. The old Elena, the people pleaser, the good employee, the woman who never rocked the boat, would have called immediately, would have been pathetically grateful for the attention. But that Elena died on a bathroom floor in Santorini. Not yet, I said, setting down the phone. First, I need to figure out what I actually want. Nathan's eyes widened slightly. Then he smiled, a small, proud smile that made my heart lift for the first time that day. And what do you want? He asked. I looked out at the darkening of Janik, at the lights coming on across the caldera, at the first stars appearing in the sky. I want them to know exactly what they've lost. I said, it's funny how clarity hits you sometimes. Not in a lightning bolt moment, but in these quiet little waves that add up, until suddenly the path forward is just obvious. Nathan and I stayed up until 3 a.m. that night. The hotel balcony. A bottle of wine, 2 legal pads. We made lists. Where in numbers, we played out scenarios. Somewhere around 1 a.m., he looked at me across the table and said, you know, you don't have to go back there, right? I blinked at him. What do you mean? These clients, they're following you, not the Blackwood name. You've essentially been running a business within a business for years. I'd never thought of it that way. I was so busy being a good employee. I'd ignored the leverage I'd built. These relationships weren't company assets. They were human connections. They were mine. By sunrise, I had a plan, not a perfect one. Not even a fully formed one, but a direction. I waited until Boston business hours and called Regina back. Elena, she answered immediately. Thank God, I've been trying to damage control this disaster since yesterday morning. What exactly happened, Regina? I kept my voice steady. She sighed heavily. Josephine made an executive decision without consulting the board. She said your compensation package had become unsustainable and that Bradley could maintain your client relationships at 60% of the cost. I actually laughed. It was so absurd. And how's that working out for her? The Liboit's call alone was a 40-minute dress down that ended with him threatening to tell every member of his golf club to pull their investments. The Chen portfolio is already in process to transfer. The Rosenbergs are livid. She paused. We need you back, Elena. Their board is meeting at 4 today. I took a deep breath. I appreciate that, Regina, but I need you to understand something. Even if you vote to bring me back, I'm not sure I want to return to a company where the CEO can fire me on my honeymoon with a form email. Silence on the line. What do you want? She finalized. Smart woman. Getting right to negotiation. I want to finish my honeymoon first, I said. Then we'll talk terms. Elena, we don't have that kind of time. Clients are moving their money now. Then I suggest you find a way to stall them, I replied. Because I'm not cutting my honeymoon short to fix Josephine's mistake. After I hung up, Nathan looked at me with a mix of a weaned concern. You just stood up to Regina Blackwood, he said. I nodded, surprised at myself. I did. Are you actually considering going back? I stared out at the perfect blue sea. On my terms or not at all? I'd like to say I spent the rest of the honeymoon blissfully disconnected, focusing only on my new husband and the beautiful Greek islands, but that would be a lie. Every morning I spent an hour returning client calls and emails. Not as a Blackwood employee, but as Elena, their trusted advisor who wanted to keep them informed. I never said I was coming back. I never said I wasn't. I just listened to their concerns and assured them I was working on a solution. The rest of each day I tried to be present with Nathan. We hiked, we swam. We ate incredible food. We made love in our ridiculously expensive hotel room. But always in the back of my mind, gears were turning. On day 5, Regina texted, "Board voted 2-1 to offer you your position back." Josephine opposed. Of course she did. I replied, "Thank you. We'll discuss when I return." On day 7, Arjun texted that Bradley had been pulled from a client call after he couldn't answer basic questions about the Petropos portfolio structure. Mr. Petropoulos had apparently said, "Get me someone who knows what they are talking about, or get me Elena." On day 9, Marcella called from her personal phone. Elena, her voice waker than I remembered, strained from her treatments. "I'm so sorry about all this. I never would have let it happen if I'd known." My anger softened a bit. Marcella had always been good to me. "I know that," I said. "How are you feeling?" "Like hell," she answered honestly. "But doctors are optimistic. Another round of chemo, then surgery." She paused. "The firm needs you, Elena." "I need you." I closed my eyes. That's the thing about manipulation. It still works even when you recognize it. "Marcella, I appreciate that, but Josephine made her position very clear." Josephine is, she searched for words. "My sister is brilliant with numbers, but terrible with people. Always has been. She sees relationships as inefficiencies." "That's a fundamental difference in business philosophy," I said. Yes, Marcella agreed. "And that difference is destroying what my father built." Her voice cracked. "Please just come to a meeting when you get back. Hear our offer." I promised I would listen. Nothing more. I spent the last day of my honeymoon drafting an email to my most loyal clients. Not a mass email. Individual messages to each of them personalized, addressing their specific concerns. I didn't send them. Not yet. But they were ready. We flew back to Boston on a Sunday. Monday morning, I dressed carefully. A charcoal grey suit, my best silk blouse, the pearl earrings my grandmother left me armor. "You look like you're going to war," Nathan observed as I applied my lipstick. I caught his eye in the mirror. "I am." The Blackwood offices occupy 3 floors of a gleaming tower overlooking Boston Harbor. I'd spent more time in that building than in my own apartment for the past 6 years. As I walked through the glass doors, the security guard did a double take. "Miss Mrs. Christus. Reeves now, right? We didn't expect." "I have a meeting." I cut him off politely, sliding my now useless badge across the desk dot. "Can you let them know I'm here?" The executive conference room was on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views that were supposed to impress clients. All 3 Blackwood sisters were waiting along with Harold Chen from board, and someone I didn't recognize. A woman in her 50s with a severe bob and a legal pad. Josephine stood first, extending her hand like we were meeting for the first time. "Elena, thank you for coming." I shook her hand but said nothing, taking the seat across from her. Regina looked anxious. Marcella exhausted but determined. I want to begin by acknowledging that the handling of 2 days into our honeymoon. 2 days. And I checked my work email. Out of habit. Out of addiction. Out of sheer stupidity. The subject line was, personnel update. Position elimination. No greeting. No name. Just that sterile phrase. Like I was a bug fix in their software. My stomach sank before I even opened it. My hands went cold. The sunlight suddenly felt sharp, cruel. And then I read, Dear Elena, effective immediately. Your position at Blackwood Partners has been eliminated due to departmental restructuring. Your final paycheck, including 2 weeks severance, will be processed as scheduled. Please coordinate with IT for the return of company property upon your return. Regards, Josephine Blackwood, CEO. 50-8 words. That's all it took to erase 6 years of my life. 6 years of late nights, missed birthdays, cancelled vacations of building their client base from nothing into something worth millions. Gone. With a form letter. Must have read it 4 times. Hoping the words would rearrange themselves. They didn't. I slipped into the bathroom before Nathan could see me cry. I sat on the cold tile floor, back against the door, clutching a hotel towel to my face as I sobbed until my body shook. The kind of sobbing that steals your breath, that turns you inside out. When it was over, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me in the mirror, eyes swollen. Mascara smudge. Hair wild from sleep and heartbreak. I was 34 years old, newly married, and unemployed in a foreign country. Hi. I'm Elena Christo Reeves, now half Greek, all workaholic, and apparently very replaceable. Until 2 weeks ago, I was the senior client relations director at Blackwood Partners, a Boston wealth management firm that handled the fortunes of people who considered average a dirty word. Before I go further, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments if this has ever happened to you. Because that morning in Santorini, I felt completely alone. Like, I was the only person who'd ever been betrayed this way. Of course, I wasn't, but it felt that way. Somehow, I had to tell my brand new husband that I'd just lost the job that paid half our mortgage. The same job I'd thanked at our wedding dinner for being my second family. When I finally opened the door, Nathan was waiting, concern written all over his face. Lena, what happened? Is it your mom? I just handed him my phone. Watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to fury. What the actual hell? They fired you? While we're on our honeymoon? I nodded, voice small. Apparently, yes. They can. He started pacing. But why? You just landed the Petropolis account last month. Ah yes, the Petropolis account. $50 million under management. 18 months of chasing, convincing, and proving. A fellow Greek-American who told me he wanted someone who understood family to handle his legacy. Josephine had cried with joy when I brought him in. Now she'd erased me with a single click. I don't know, I said softly. But deep down, I had my suspicions. Nathan pulled me into his arms. We'll figure it out, he said, his voice firm. But first, we're turning off your phone and having breakfast. They don't get to ruin our honeymoon. So I did what he asked. We ate Greek yogurt and honey on the balcony, the air thick with sunshine and salt. For a few hours, I almost convinced myself I could let it go. Then lunchtime came. Nathan went to the restroom, and I made the mistake of turning my phone back on. It exploded. Dozens of notifications piled up, texts, emails, voicemails, all time-stamped within the same few hours after my termination notice. The first message was from Arjun, my assistant. What is happening? Clients are panicking. Josephine looks like she's about to faint. Call me. Then Daniela from legal. Elena, the Blackwood sisters are melting down. Marcella just screamed at Josephine in front of the entire staff. Never seen anything like it. And then one from Rex, head of security. They told me to revoke your access, but I'm stalling. You've got about 48 hours before I have to push it through. But the one that made my breath catch was from Thomas. Client services. 47 of our biggest clients are threatening to leave unless you're reinstated. They say you're the reason they signed with us. The board's in emergency session. What do you want us to do? 47 clients. Over 80% of our high-value portfolio. Billions, yes, billions of dollars on the verge of walking out the door. Because of me, my hands trembled as I listened to the voicemails clients I'd worked with for years. Their voices filled with outrage and loyalty. If Eleanor's gone, we're gone. When Nathan came back, he found me crying again, but these were different tears. He looked alarmed. What now? I met his eyes. I think, I said slowly, Josephine just made the biggest mistake of her career. Because I finally realized my worth. Let me rewind for a moment. You can't understand what happened next without understanding. Blackwood Partners. It was founded by three sisters, Josephine, Marcella, and Regina Blackwood, who inherited their father's investment business. Josephine, the oldest, was the strategist, the ruthless numbers woman. Marcella was the heart, the relationship builder, the one who remembered birthdays and believed kindness could live beside profit. Regina kept the operations running quietly in the background. Marcella hired me 6 years ago. She found me at a rival firm where I'd hit a ceiling, too young, too female, too ethnic. She saw something in me, mentored me, trusted me. Within a year, I was handling their top clients. Within 3, I was bringing in more new business than anyone else. But a year ago, Marcella was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer and stepped back for treatment. Without her, Josephine's colder instincts took over. She slashed wellness programs, replaced in-person events with webinars, stripped away the personal touches that had made us special. I fought her quietly at first, then openly. Because I saw what she didn't. Our clients stayed, because they trusted us as people, not just numbers on a ledger. Then, 3 weeks before my wedding, Josephine summoned me. Elena, she began, we need to talk about your client load. I'm concerned it's becoming unmanageable. I was baffled. My clients are happy. Retention is near perfect. She cut me off. This isn't about satisfaction. It's about efficiency. You're too involved. We need to standardize our approach. Then she dropped it. I'm reassigning the Petropolis account to Bradley. Bradley Winters, Harvard MBA, Josephine's golden boy. The kind of man who calls women sweetheart in meetings. Mr. Petropolis specifically requested me. I said, pulse racing. He'll walk if you move him. We'll manage the transition, she said coolly. I've already spoken to Bradley. That's when I lost my composure. This is a mistake, I snapped. Our clients don't want templates. They want relationships. That's outdated thinking, Josephine replied. Modern wealth management is about systems, not personalities. Clients shouldn't be attached to individual advisors. It creates risk. No, I said, standing. That's what makes us human. That's why Marcella built this firm the way she did. She gave a thin smile. Marcella was sentimental. Sentiment doesn't scale. That's when I knew. I wasn't being managed. I was being erased. I walked out of her office furious, but resolved to deal with it after the honeymoon. I never got that chance. Because by the time I was standing in Santorini, staring at that email, Josephine had already pulled the trigger. And now, sitting on that sunlit balcony, the Aegean sparkling behind me, I realized something else. She had just fired the woman who held her entire empire together. Unfortunate, Josephine began, reading from prepared notes. Unfortunate, I repeated flatly. Yes. The timing was poor and the communication method was impersonal. For that, I apologize. The woman with the legal pad nodded approvingly. The PR handler, of course. However, Josephine continued, stunned by the business decision. We needed to restructure client services for scalability and efficiency. I folded me hands on the table. And how is that restructuring going, Josephine? Regina shifted uncomfortably. Marcella stared at her sister. There have been challenges, Josephine admitted. Which is why we vised you here. The board has voted to create a new position. Executive Client Relations Director. You would report directly to the board, not to me. Your compensation would increase by 15%, plus an expanded equity package. I looked at each of them in turn. And you believe that solves the problem? We believe it acknowledges your value to the firm, Regina said, and creates a structure where this kind of misunderstanding couldn't happen. Again. Misunderstanding. What a sanitized word for betrayal. I'm curious, I said, addressing Josephine directly. Did you actually think the clients wouldn't care that Bradley could just step in, and they'd accept it? She stiffened. We underestimated the personal attachments. That's a fair criticism. It's not about personal attachments, I said. Leaning forward. It's about trust. These people entrust us with their financial security, their children's futures, their retirements. That's intensely personal. They don't trust Blackwood Partners. They trust specific people at Blackwood Partners. Marcella nodded. That's what I've been saying for 20 years. So Harold Chen spoke for the first time. Will you accept our offer? I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. No, I said simply. I won't. Josephine's face darkened. Elena, be reasonable. You ran it going to find a better compensation package elsewhere. I don't want to be someone else's asset anymore, I said, sliding papers across the table to each of them. This is my counter-proposal. They all stared at the document titled Christos Partners LLC. You're starting your own firm? Regina asked, eyes wide. I already have, I replied. Filed the paperwork last week. I've secured financing based on commitments from clients, representing over $2 billion in assets. The room went silent. The problem was scribbling frantically. This would destroy Blackwood, Josephine said, her voice deadly quiet. Not necessarily, I said. That's why I'm here. I'm proposing a managed transition. An official spin-off with Blackwood maintaining a minority stake. My clients move with me, that your company preserves some of the value and avoids a mass exodus. Harold Chen was reading my proposal with increasing interest. A strategic partnership, he mused. Exactly. Blackwood gets a revenue share without the overhead of my team. I get independence and control over client relationships. I looked directly at Josephine. Everyone gets what they actually want. This is absurd, Josephine snapped. We'll challenge this legally. Your client relationships were developed while employed here. They're Aranon competes that mysteriously disappeared from my contract during my last renewal. I finished for her. It checked with legal before I left. And since you terminated me without cause, any remaining restrictions are invocable. Marcella let out a sound between a laugh and a cough. She's got you, Joe. You knew about this. Josephine turned on her sister. No, Marcella replied. But I'm not surprised. Elena was always smarter than you gave her credit for. She turned to me. What would this partnership look like practically? For the next hour, we hashed out details. Harold and Regina asked pointed questions. The PR woman stopped taking notes and just listened wide-eyed. Josephine said almost nothing, her lips pressed into a thin line. By the time we finished, we hadn't reached a final agreement, but the outlines were clear. I would establish Christos Partners with my core clients. Blackwood would maintain a 20% stake, ensuring they didn't lose everything. Most importantly, I would have complete autonomy over client relationships and business development. We'll need to take this to the full board. Harold said finally. I nodded and stood. You have 48 hours. After that, I send my announcements to clients. As I gathered me things, Josephine finally spoke again. You planned this all along, didn't you? Built up your client relationships knowing you'd eventually take them. I met her gaze evenly. No, Josephine. I built relationships because that's what good advisors do. I love this company. I defended it. I recruit for it. I cancelled plans and missed holidays for it. I slipped my folder back into my bag. You taught me something valuable, though. Never confuse loyalty to a company with loyalty to your own worth. I walked out of that conference room with my heart pounding, but my steps steady. In the elevator, I finally let myself exhale, leaning against the wall as the doors closed. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. How did it go? I smiled and typed back. I just became a CEO. The next 48 hours were a blur. More meetings, lawyers, phone calls with potential staff starting with Arjun, who accepted my offer on the spot. The board approved my proposal with one change. They wanted 30% ownership. I counter-offered at 22%. We settled at 25%. 1 week after returning from my honeymoon, I signed papers establishing a formal partnership between Blackwood Partners and the newly formed Christa Partners. 3 weeks after that, we moved into our own offices, smaller, but with the same harbor view. The transition wasn't perfectly smooth. Bradley tried to convince some of my clients to stay. A few of the smaller ones did, but the core relationships, the Lowitzes, Vetchins, the Rosenbergs, the Petropulis account, they all came with me. In the end, I took 52 clients representing nearly 65% of Blackwood's high net worth portfolio. Josephine resigned 2 months later, pursuing other opportunities. The press release said Regina became CEO, with Marcella taking a more active board role as her health improved. It's been 18 months now. Christo's Partners is thriving. We've even stolen a few key employees from Blackwood, including Daniela from Legal and Rex from Security. I worked just as hard as I ever did. But now, every late night and weekend email feels different. It's mine. Nathan and I bought a house outside the city. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I still think about that moment in Santorini sobbing on the bathroom floor, feeling like my world had ended. I think about how close I came to begging for my job back. Last week, Marcella invited me to lunch. Her cancer is in remission. Her hair is growing back, silvery at the temples. You know, she said as we shared a bottle of wine. When Josephine sent that email, I nearly disowned her. But now, she gestured between us at the successful businesswomen we'd both become. I almost want to thank her. I laughed. I wouldn't go that far. Fair enough. She smiled. But look what you've built, Elena. Would you have ever done it if you hadn't been pushed? I thought about it honestly. Probably not. Sometimes the worst moments crack us open in ways we need. She said, not that I'm defending her. What she did was cruel and stupid and the best thing that ever happened to me. I admitted wet-linked glasses to that. So, if you're watching this and you're in that bathroom floor moment, the one where you feel like everything is collapsing, I want you to know something. You're stronger than you think you are. That thing you're afraid to do, the leap you're terrified to take. Sometimes the universe pushes you when you won't jump yourself. When Josephine fired me, she thought she was eliminating a cost center. What she really did was create her biggest competitor. The best revenge isn't something you plot and scheme. It's not about making someone else suffer. It's about taking the blow and transforming it into something powerful. It's about becoming more fully yourself. That email was meant to end my career. Instead, it forced me to begin. So, be angry. Cry on the bathroom floor. Feel everything you need to feel. Then get up, Wash your face and start building. Because sometimes getting fired isn't the end of your story. It's the first page.